Yo, what is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another MLB video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about 5 players who need to bounce back in 2021, starting off with Randal Grichuk from the Toronto Blue Jays. If you guys have watched some of my previous videos, you know how I feel about Randal Grichuk. He makes $10 million to be average at best, especially last year. He had 12 home runs and 35 RBIs, and he had some other stats, but I don't want to bore you guys with those stats. He was basically pretty average defensively and pretty average like offensively. He had some pops, but for $10 million, he definitely needs to step up his game. The Blue Jays have Hernandez, Gurriel Jr., and Springer and Tellez at the DH, so they really don't have any room for Grichuk, and he makes $10 million to be a bench bat. So I definitely think he needs to bounce back to take his job back. I don't see where he's going to get it back because everyone else in the lineup is playing better than him or has more upside. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can bounce back or if the Blue Jays trade him to a different team where he can flourish and become a better player, because once upon a time he was actually drafted a spot before Mike Trout in the draft. So that draft pick obviously didn't pan out as well as Mike Trout, but he needs to definitely bounce back for Toronto or another team if he gets traded. Going on to number 4, we have Javier Baez. Javier Baez has been really good in the past. He's one of the best defenders, especially at the shortstop position. His bat has always been decent. He has lots of power, but he's a little bit inconsistent. Last year was a little bit of a down year for him, and he needs to bounce back this year because he's going into the free agent market. And if some of the other names go into the free agent market, like Trevor Story, Corey Seager, Francisco Lindor, Carlos Correa, Marcus Semien, there's not going to be as much competition for him. There's not going to be as many bidding wars because teams could always go to a different shortstop. So he definitely needs to shine like he used to in the past to become the person that teams want to get into a bidding war for, and they don't want to get anyone else. So definitely interesting to see. I don't know where he's going to sign, but he definitely needs to bounce back if he wants to get a big contract. Even if he doesn't have the best of years this year, he still has a pretty good resume, and he has all the skills to get a big contract. So I think he'll be just fine. But he's at the number 4 spot. Going on to the number 3, we have another Chicago Cub, Chris Bryant. He is going to be looking for over $200 million in the free agent market next year as a third baseman. There's probably going to be some bidding wars for him. He's one of the best third basemen out there, former Rookie of the Year and MVP. He has been really good in the past, but last year, like Baez, was a down year for him. He has some pop, he has some good defense, he has some contact, he has a little bit of speed, so he can pretty much do it all. He's all around a very good player, so there's going to be some teams in the third base market next year looking for a third baseman that can make a difference. He can definitely be that guy. It's just, will he be able to perform the way he did a couple years ago when he was winning an MVP and he was winning a Rookie of the Year? So hopefully he can bounce back. The Chicago Cubs have a couple people that need to bounce back if they want to have some big contracts in the future. Going on to the number 2 spot, and Shohei Ohtani is at the number 2 spot for me. He has not really played bad. He hasn't really had the chance to. The only reason he's at the number 2 spot is because he's been injured over his time in the MLB. We haven't really been able to see his full potential. Ohtani, if he's at his best, he can be one of the best players in baseball. The reason because he can hit a baseball 450 feet plus. In spring training, he hit a bomb today over the center field wall, almost onto a highway, because there's a highway where they play spring training games. So he hit an absolute bomb. He has the potential to hit lots of bombs, and he also can throw a baseball 100 miles an hour for when he's pitching, because he can do both. He can pitch and he can hit, so he's a super fun player to watch. And again, he hasn't really played bad, but he hasn't had the chance to when he's been playing. He's shown a lot of good signs, and he has so much upside. When he played overseas, he was one of the best players because he could hit and he could pitch, and he did both very well. So he definitely needs to sort of stay healthy. So he's going to be someone to watch out for. It seems like he's extremely healthy right now. He's 100%, it looks like, so it's definitely going to be fun to watch, especially if you're an Angels fan. And going into the number 1 spot, we have Gary Sanchez. Gary Sanchez, the catcher for the New York Yankees. There's always sort of been a question mark when it comes to his defense. He has a good throwing arm, but his blocking and other defensive skills aren't really the best. Even when it comes to his hitting, he's never really been a contact hitter. His average will always be in the low 200s, maybe even the 100s, but he will hit you a lot of home runs and he can hit a baseball very far. He has extreme power, but last year he was sort of pushed out of his job at the catching position by Kyle Higashioka, who at the time was playing better, but Higashioka will have to prove himself again. Gary Sanchez does not hit the free agent market for another year, I believe, in 2022 or 2023, so he still has some time to get better and go back to the way he was. There was a video from Trevor Plouffe, a former MLB player, who was talking about Gary Sanchez's swing, and his swing has definitely changed over the last couple years, a little bit for the worse with his leg kick. So hopefully he can find himself again and he can get back to the productive hitter that he was, because there's some guys coming for his job. You got Robinson Chirinos, you got Brantley, and you got Higashioka. So it's going to be interesting to see. And even if he does not perform well this year, he could still hit the free agent market because the Yankees could non-tender him at the end of the year. He definitely needs to bounce back because he has so much potential. But if your defense isn't working, you can stay for your offense. But if your offense and defense isn't working, then it's hard to stay in the Yankees lineup, especially the Yankees, because they have one of the best lineups in the MLB. So hopefully he can find his groove. Just to recap, we have Gary Sanchez at number 1, Shohei Ohtani at number 2, Kris Bryant at number 3, Javier Baez at number 4, Randal Grichuk at number 5. Let me know down in the comments if there's anyone else you think needs to bounce back, and did you agree with my list? Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you guys in the next one.